The Cole guys, I'm George.
And I'm David.
Today we're joined by Corwyn Melette. He's all over the place, number one. He doesn't really need an introduction. Part of EXIT Low Country down here, also now part of EXIT Realty New Horizons. We're super excited to have him, but you should already know who he is. He's the man with the scream from the Mercedes, so let's not forget that.
Yeah, we're in Charleston today, coming down for a little bit of business meeting, so we're mixing a little bit of podcasting with business planning going on. No Mercedes today.
Yeah, no. Shout out though to Dick Dwyer. Look, That is the business man. That Mercedes was hot.
This episode is brought to you by Dick Dyer Mercedes-Benz, the first Mercedes-Benz in South Carolina.
Corwyn, we are just really happy that you chose to approach George and I when we were initially talking about this idea of going out and opening our own EXIT franchise in Columbia, about joining us. So, and we have since then, you and I opened up EXIT Realty New Horizons. We are right smack downtown. A lot of big ideas, a lot of big we're very oriented towards business in a lot of the same ways. So maybe we want to talk a little bit about, reintroduce yourself to our audience, who you are, what you do, and then I'm going to fill in all the things that you don't say about yourself.
Well, look, you're going to talk for a while because I really don't like to talk about me, guys. But my name is Corwyn Melette. I am the broker and owner of EXIT Realty Low Country Group down in beautiful North Charleston, South Carolina, as well as partner, realtor, in EXIT Realty New Horizons in Columbia. I'm super stoked about it. Been in the real estate industry business now for 19 going to 20 years. I always joke and tell people I'm too stupid to leave it. But I love what we do. I love the impact that we have. I'm very involved, very engaged in our real estate community and the industry itself, serving in leadership positions at the local level in Charleston, state level, Columbia, all around the state, and also at the national level. Because I believe in what we do, and I believe that we should be champions for home ownership and private property rights, not just in our respective local markets, but across the entire state, as well as across the entire nation. Real estate makes the world go round. Yeah. God ain't making no more dirt.
No. No, he is not. And I think that's one of the reasons we have formed a relationship with you, because you have that leadership style that's best described as a servant leader. You are the person out in front giving to people more so than you are taking, and you lead with that. And I, as one, just really applaud you for that, because it has brought you much success.
Well, I appreciate it. I believe that God has given us all life of service. And I talk about, God, a lot, because he is everywhere and he's in everything, but not to, really get, if you will, off topic, off script. But I want to say that I believe that we all have a life of service. Mm-hmm. And real estate just happens to be the place, space, and life that I've found that I can provide service. Yeah. When you help someone purchase a home, or help someone, lease a space for their business, or purchase the building for their business, that is empowering. That manifests a change within people. And that change has a ripple effect on their life and on the life of those around them, their family, friends, everybody going forward. It's such a broad impact. So I love having the opportunity to be that pebble in somebody's life, to drop it right there in the pond, so to speak, of their life, and have a ripple effect on so many other things that they may touch in their future. So I'm very humbled to be able to do that. And I know that's what we do. That's what we do at New Horizons. We're changing people's lives.
Right. Sure.
Yeah, whether it's first-time homebuyer workshop or anything like that, it's definitely, I think, what makes you stand out, and kind of what makes EXIT New Horizons stand out is it is that servitude. It's not going in and asking for business after you immediately give them the education. It's educating, and when the time's right, hoping that they crawl back and ask for your help, not because they feel forced to or pressured to. It's just because you were there every time they had a question, and you were providing them with that information as they went along.
So as we joked a little earlier, before the show about you, it's what you do. It's what we do. Mm-hmm. We go and we knock on the door, or we get introduced to a little old lady, little old man, or young whoever, and in turn, the difference is we get invited to sit to the table to have a conversation to help somebody. Mm-hmm. And that is significant. Yeah. Because one, everybody don't get to the table. No. But number two, it is significant because we're not there just, okay, you need to sell your house, you need to do this. Ooh. No, we're there because, okay, let's lay all your options out on the table. Let's talk about it. Okay, if you do this, this is probably what's going to happen. If you do this, so forth and so on. Tell me what direction you want to take. Mm-hmm. My homeboy, I'll share this with you, a little bit earlier, kind of give you a scenario. But, my homeboy, a couple of days ago, because, I'm trying to work through and help him with something. And, he said, Colt, man, he said, man, I can't ever repay you. You ain't have to. Yeah, I know. And you ain't got to repay me. Mm-hmm. Helping you is satisfaction enough for me. If I can't help you, I am going to figure out how to help you by getting you to someone who can.
Right.
So, we oftentimes are so focused, so narrow-minded, but to look at it in a broader sense, and the reason why we do what we do is to have that impact again in people's lives.
Right. And I think not only just in real estate, but outside in the community doing other things as well. Mm-hmm. Being a part of your community more than just the real estate piece mm-hmm. is hugely important. It's important to us. I know George has been raised around that. It's mm-hmm. important to him. Mm-hmm. And so, just being out there, just giving mm-hmm. and giving and giving and giving, it makes all the difference in the world because somebody will come ask you mm-hmm. for business. And I think that's when it's most fulfilling mm-hmm. because you earned it without having to go knock on a door and say, mm-hmm. do you want to sell your house today? Mm-hmm. So
mm-hmm. Definitely, especially referral or somebody just asking you. I mean, we're kind of lucky enough that our first agent just at EXIT Realty New Horizons just texted me and said, hey, are you willing to talk about it? We didn't mm-hmm. have to go out there, and that means mm-hmm. that we're doing something in the community, number one, that's meaningful, but number two, it's starting to make that wave. Mm-hmm. And as it grows, more and more people will hop on and kind of surf it with us.
Exactly. I shared with you, earlier that, someone reached out to me for, they saw a bunch of things that we have going on. Mm-hmm. I've made it a point. I told my team here, a few months ago, a couple of months ago, I said, this summer I'm going on tour. You're yeah. I said it just like that. I said it just like that. Yeah. So literally ended up on tour twice actually. That's all. We'll talk about that. But I said, look, I'm going on tour this summer. Just like a rock band, musical artist or whoever goes on tour around the country, around wherever. I'm like, look, I'm going on tour around our local, but I'm also going to expand it. So I'm going on tour anywhere I can around the state to talk about options on housing that's affordable housing programs and stuff. So an agent reaches out and, because they saw all these things that, well, you're doing this, you're doing, and all this stuff. They said, well, look, they called, hey, I've been following you for a while. Like, I've been watching you for a long time. I like what you're doing. What can I do to be a part of that? Right. And I appreciated that because oftentimes, it's not that we do it for show. We do not do it for show. But when someone sees the work that you're doing, it's no different than, and this is priceless. If you've ever driven down a country road and seen the lone farmer out there in the middle of the field, out there with his hands tilling, not with a machine, not driving the tractor, but with his hand tilling. Yeah. See, the difference is from where I come from and how I think, neighbors help neighbors. You out there in your tractor, look, I might not bring my tractor over. I'm going to wave at you, I'm going to keep on going. But you out there working by hand. Yeah. Whether you got your hands to it, whether you got a horse or a mule pulling the plow, your hand to that plow and you trying to work and keep it balanced mm-hmm. and keep it where it needs to be. We're looking for and we want people to come put their hand on the plow. Right. Don't just wave at us and see us and look here and see that mule or that horse about to take off and we trying to figure out how we gonna hold on to this thing. We want people to come put their hand to the plow because there's work to be done in our industry. Right. And we want people to come help people do the work in our industry.
Right. Because we also serve as guardians,
Ah.
right? I mean, how many deals have you been involved in where not everything was disclosed, not everything was known up front, not everything was wanted to be known up front, and people get neck deep in it, and all of a sudden, they're either going to make a really costly decision, or someone's going to be there to help correct the situation, and hopefully, they've got enough experience to recognize that before it goes in a direction, or if you're in that space with that person, the ability to coach that person back and say, no, look, I've got you got to spend the money to do this, because you can't leave this property like that.
That is very fair. It's like being in a pool. Most times you go from the 3 foot in, shallow end, if you will, to the 8-9 foot in, and I don't know many 8-9 foot people, so most people at that point are going to be underwater. But sometimes, in real estate, our pool is a little bit different. Our pool doesn't have a gradual slope. It's got steps. Yeah. So when you make a step, sometimes you think you stepping from 3 to 4 feet. Okay, I'm good. So when you find out that thing that you didn't know, okay, well, hold on. Okay, we at 4 feet now. And then there's another one. But sometimes you step from 5 feet
to 8
to 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
But
to add on to that, though, it's like when you think of your client, you're like, this is their first. This could be their first time selling or buying a home, right? But when you're doing the deal as well, we kind of just talked about it from a client side. There are times where you get that same feeling for the other agent, and so now you're juggling 3 people. You're juggling the seller, because pretty much. If you're bringing the buyer, you're pretty much doing the seller side too. If the agent doesn't know what's going on, you're coaching the other agent through it. And you're like, this is already a headache. And then you have your buyer, who this could be their first transaction as well. So you're not stuck. You're happy with because you're getting a deal going on, but you're stuck with all 3, and the other agent not knowing what's going on. And it kind of goes back to what we're talking about, is that step, where you're dropping off a cliff.
So you got to manage the expectations.
And it goes back to being a servant leader.
Definitely.
Right? You've got to be able to recognize what's going on, who's around, and what other people need in order to make the deal go through. One of our last closings, we sold a house for a young man, and the agent on the other side, it's really funny, about 2 weeks after we would close, because it got interesting, and she kept working, and it was easy to deal with. I called her up and said, you know what? You've been the easiest person I've ever dealt with. You hung in there. We both worked to overcome some obstacles, and I just want to say thank you. And she just got speechless. And and how many of those phone calls do you get to make, right? To say thank you to someone, but because so many other times when they're not your agent, because you're not their broker, and you still feel like I need to. Bring them along, help them understand the complexities of this.
And that is it's a relevant point. So, my wife and I have been having this conversation about, and I said this a few weeks ago, so feel free to use it as you will. But we got to learn to check in on people before they check out. And what you just described is that's a similar scenario. So you did a deal with somebody, and had some difficulties. At the end of it, you're relieved it's done. And you call the other agent to say, hey, thank you for hanging in there. You made this worth doing.
Yeah.
That means something to that person. There's so many times that we just run off to the next thing. We don't, hey, thank you for this or anything. No acknowledgement, no thanks or whatever. And it's funny because I did a deal. It wasn't messy. It was okay. And we got the deal done, and I called the agent. They didn't answer, but I sent them a text message to the same effect. Hey, great working with you, blah, 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 blah. Thank you. Look forward to doing it again. And that meant so much to them because nobody does that anymore.
No, and I think, too, that, it goes back to helping you refine, what you're looking for in terms of an agent. But it also, I'm going to go back to, recently now being a broker in charge, right? Having gone through the class, and we're setting up a brand new office, and we've got an opportunity to rewrite the template of how an office functions and works. So we take, young enthusiastic agents like George and give them wings and let them go. But then the simplest thing, and I won't say simple because I don't know how many hours I have on our policy manual at this point and still not done with it, of just how much a relief that document can be to somebody that's new or it's been a while since they've done X, Y, or Z to have it all in place. And so, you scratch your head while you're in this training going, well, why are they requiring us to put this in? Or why are they requiring, well, it all makes sense. Because as broker, who's got all the responsibility?
Us.
We do. And agents, are independent contractors. So they can, they can go do what they want to. Most of them have a contractual agreement with the agency. But we're still responsible for their behavior and what they do. And so I think a lot of brokers take that independent word too seriously or too literally and don't spend time, as you say, picking up the phone, checking in on them. I mean...
And that is... So, one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is that, how an agent has to, or is supposed to be marketing. Right. Social media, what's supposed to be on the advertising.
Yeah.
What names, and it's interesting, we see a lot of agents that are, just, they're going out and they're taking pictures of other people's listings and, exactly, and making posts about the property, call me about it, and it makes it look like it's their listing. And it makes it challenging. I recently had a situation where an agent, had taken one of our listings and created a flyer that they posted and shared on social media, and it was outside of our company. And I was about to contact the agent, immediately, and then I was like, you know what? Let me just call their broker. Yeah. But before I did, I said, you know what? Let me check with my agent first to see that they know about it, and not that they, whatever. But hey, did you, just hey, this happened. Just making sure that you weren't aware of this. And lo and behold, they were aware. And they said, well, yeah, I told them they could do it. Whoa. You can't do that. You don't have permission to do that. You gotta talk to your broker first, because anything that they market or advertise, you're liable for, I'm liable for, the seller is liable for. Yeah. So we need to make sure that before, whoa. Call me. Let's talk. Let me explain to you this. So when I explained it, oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, you didn't know that. And as much as I talked to you, you never said to me, Corwyn, hey, this. Yeah. Make you want to put them in a chokehold sometimes. Hey, let's disregard that.
I mean, so you go to get your real estate license, right? It doesn't teach you anything about. It teaches you the law, but it doesn't teach you the application necessarily of the law to doing your job. Yeah. So that's challenging in and of itself, because things get good in real estate, people get drawn into it because there's a low barrier to entry.
Especially here.
Yeah.
Especially here, because we're part of EXIT. EXIT started in Canada. What's the
year-long course up there? Yeah. And here it's like,
give you
2 weeks, man. You'll be in. You'll be selling stuff.
Yeah, and even other states have significantly higher entry requirements, and then they also have a higher maintenance requirement. I think South Carolina is probably, if not the lowest, it's the second lowest continuing education state. At this junction, and we have other states. California, they have to do, I believe, 20 hours. Or 40 hours every 2 years, which is 20 hours a year, in order to keep their license up to date, because stuff changes, and you have to. But one of the issues, kind of going back to what you were saying, is the agent forgets. Yeah. I have a long memory. I forgive. Don't get me wrong, but I have a long memory, and most agents have a short memory. What happens is they get into the business. Again, they were not taught application. And then what they start doing is things that, well, that makes sense. Okay, that makes sense. Oh, I should be able to do that. Oh, I should be able to do that. And they go do all this stuff when this book over here says, no, you can't do that.
Right.
This is how this has to be done. And they lack the engagement. They don't focus on what they should focus on. And then in turn, that's how we get off on these tangents and stuff. There's so many that are just doing what they think they can do. and then many of them are following other people that are doing what they think they can do.
Right.
So, that's one of the challenges that we as brokers, and company owners face.
Right.
It's
a challenge because you want to recruit, because you want to grow, but there isn't always benefit in greater quantity.
That's fair.
Right. And so I think one of the things that we've learned from some of the people we met, up in Canada a while back that are very successful broker owners up there and, have grown to have significant market share in their areas is that, in the beginning it's a struggle because you want people in there and you want bodies and you want transactions, but over time, if you can hang in there long enough to get them trained and get them focused and they start succeeding, then they start attracting the kind of people that you really want into the brokerage, and you can be a little more selective over.
It's just the whole philosophy of you attract what you have. If you have crap, the next agent you get is 95%.
Yeah.
And I think we're off to a good start because we can find Tim Moore with the guy that we hired, and they're as tenacious as he is. We're going to be just fine. So
and that's a very good point. You do want the quality. You want someone who is committed. Not that they know everything, but they're willing to learn anything.
Coachable.
Oh, jeez.
That's the word.
That's the word. They have to be.
Yep.
They have to have a reasonable amount of sense, so to speak.
Based on,
based on. But they have to be coachable.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with so many different people, personalities, and it's not it's not vanilla. You can't do the same thing over and over and over again, and throw it out if something gets in it. That's not it. You have to be able to make some adaptation. Are you expected to make a full pendulum swing? Everybody's not good at that, but you have to have a little bit of flexibility to work with and engage multiple personality types.
Right.
That is critical. And if you don't have that, then you're going to suffer in your business.
Yeah.
And then it helps if you are a creative, a critical thinker.
Yeah.
Because you can figure out, okay, well, we can't do this way. We can do it this way. Okay, let's do it this way because we can get it done. This will happen. So, okay, I got you. Yeah. Because ultimately, there's two people that we want to make happy. If we make those two people happy, then in turn everybody is happy. You make the buyer and the seller happy, and by default everybody else is happy.
And you get a deal.
You got a deal.
And maybe some referrals out of it.
Exactly.
So, well, that goes back to. That just goes back to just experience, and it takes time to learn and have experience, so that when you get yourself into situations, you start recognizing patterns that you can draw back on that knowledge, or you've had enough time in the business to develop a really healthy network of individuals where you can pick up the phone and go, look, I've got this problem, and I've never seen this before. That's one reason we feel blessed that we work with you. You've got a ton of experience. We can call on you and draw. I know you've called, asked me a couple of questions a couple of times, and so that kind of dynamic serves us well in the long run. But I want to switch gears a little bit because you jumped out multiple before George even. I ever thought about getting into real estate, doing a radio show.
Okay.
That has now morphed into a weekly podcast, and you've got crazy downloads. That George and I are like, we're gonna get there. We promise we're gonna get there. But talk to us about what you do with exit strategies. And what your mission is there, because that goes back to your servant heart and giving again.
So the mantra, the mission of Exit Strategy Radio Show is to empower our community through financial literacy and real estate education. We're legacy building. That's our tagline. That is what we focus on, helping people to understand. And we've really kind of grown the show over the last several months, and I'm super excited about it. Because we've been focusing for initially on talking to people about I call them EMPs, expense management plans. Other people call them budgets, and budget's like a 4-letter word to most people now. So, we change that up a little bit. Let's get you an EMP, expense management plan together. Let's focus on credit. So we spent time and time after on that, talking about various loans, loan products, and all that stuff. But we've really, over the last several months, kind of grown this show, and we have started bringing on real estate investors. We brought people in to do Airbnb hacks.
Yeah.
I recently just interviewed a gentleman that, and I have his book, on my desk, and it talks about, buying real estate on terms. He got away from financing. He, lost everything in the recession. He was leveraged, an investor, and had all these properties leveraged, and the market went kaput, and he lost everything. And he's like, look, I'm not doing that again. I'm not financing. So he has figured out and built a system on getting people to sell a financing and buying real estate on terms. So, those kind of people that give a segue into how we can begin to grow, how we can modify our existing thinking, and in turn experience a different life by doing what to us is simple, because it's what we do all day long and what we help people with. But teaching or showing someone, hey, well, this person, they do this. Because we talking about real estate because we sell it, we help people buy it, acquire it, all that stuff, dispose of it, blah, blah, blah.
Bless you. Thank you.
There's a whole lot, bless you, there's a whole lot of difference when you're able to introduce them to someone who syndicates and buys storage buildings across the country, apartment buildings across the country, and all that stuff. It is amazing. So that's what we've really done over the last several months.
Well, and I like your approach because it goes back to anything else. There's not one approach to real estate, and not everybody's got a comfort level or a risk tolerance level to get into, all the different ways that you can own, and invest in real estate and make it pay you back. And so, I applaud you for your efforts and what you're trying to do. And so, we're going to be shouting you from the rooftops in Columbia, like, look, here's our partner. We don't talk about those kind of topics on our podcast. So, we feel like now that we've partnered with you, we've got another piece of the puzzle to plug in and give our clients and